In the name of the one who loves the beloved and love itself. Amen. Have you ever watched somebody doing something that you know that they were just called to do? Can you call a memory to mind or a person? Personally, I'm thinking of Zendaya. She is one of the stars of the Spider-Man movies that I love. I am a Marvel comic book geek, and I love all the Marvel movies, but like you sometimes watch Zendaya doing something, she does it so effortlessly and beautifully. She is beautiful herself, she does fashion, but the thing that really got me was when I saw her dance once. She was on Dancing with the Stars, she was robbed, she came in second, but she is just effortless in doing that, and you think, this person is called to do this, to entertain. There are lots of different callings. Callings to the priesthood and ministry, callings to the diaconate, callings to medicine, callings to law, callings to helping other people. There are all kinds of callings. Some of us are doing things that we have to do. Sometimes you spot somebody that's really doing something they're called to do, and it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming seeing somebody operating out of their vocation. This Old Testament lesson is wonderful. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, and he was high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple, and he was surrounded by seraphs. With 2 wings they covered their feet, with 2 wings they covered their face, with 2 wings they flew, and they sung, "Holy, holy, holy." It's wonderful, I love it. And then it goes on to say that the prophet who was witnessing this vision said, "Woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live amongst a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the Lord, the King of glory." Sounds an awful lot like Simon in the Gospel. So in the Gospel, Jesus is on the shore lake, the lakeside of Galilee, and he's speaking, but he can't quite be heard by the crowds because there's too many. So he sees fishermen, and he asks to be put out into the water so that he has a little space, and so that the people can see him, and he begins to teach, sitting in the boat. I wonder if he's looking around and observing the body language of the fishermen who are thinking, why are we doing this for this guy? Why is he commandeering our boat? Why is he preaching? What? Do I really believe him? Is he really convincing? And at the end of that, he says, okay, let's put the boat out into the deep and lower your nets, and we'll fish. And Simon's like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's the morning. The fish are gone. We've been doing this all night. We got no luck. But sure, okay, whatever. We'll do it. So they went out into the deep and they lowered their nets. And they got such a great catch of fish that they had to call on their friends to come and help them, to haul them in. The laws, the rules of fishing were being broken. Things were not happening as they expected them to. And the reaction that Simon had was to say, effectively, woe is me, I'm a sinner. He saw Jesus operating in this moment of calling and engaging in the miraculous catch of fish, and he recognized that he was in the presence of somebody who was holy, who was called, who was anointed, who did have a message, and he felt unworthy. One of you have had that feeling. You've had a task in front of you that you've had to do, something you feel perhaps called to do, something you've been asked to do, maybe by a friend, a family member, or a church leader, maybe just something you wanted to do in your life, or something you had a nagging sense that you needed to do, but you felt ill-equipped and unworthy to do it. You felt like Isaiah or Simon. Woe is me, I'm a person of unclean lips, I live amongst the people of unclean lips. You know, it's really interesting in that moment of calling, that moment of experiencing the divine and being asked to do something meaningful but overwhelming, that you feel a sense of inadequacy. Isaiah did, Simon did. They both had a sense that they weren't up to the task. As I think about it, they were having a real sense of honesty, an honest conversation with themselves about their frailty, their humanity. If we go back into the book of Isaiah, though, the very next thing that happens is wonderful. The cherubim comes from the throne, goes down to the brazier, and takes a burning coal with a tongue, touches the lips of Isaiah and says, "You're clean." In this moment when we feel a sense of calling, if we're honest with ourselves, we know we're not up to it. But also, when we have a calling from the divine, God's going to be there to equip us, to be present with us. And he doesn't want perfect people. He doesn't want the people that think they're all right already. He doesn't want the people who think that they have got everything that the world needs. He wants the people who are prepared to be honest with themselves and say, "I'm not up to this. And nevertheless, I still feel the tug of God to do something." Right after Simon said he was a sinner, Jesus says, "It's okay. You're going to fish for people." And he did. And Simon, who became Peter, had all kinds of flaws all the way through his relationship with Jesus and in parts of his earthly ministry, but he became one of the founders of the church that we are still a part of today. So God's calling, though overwhelming, became for Simon Peter a moment of resource as well. He was giving everything he needed in order to accomplish the task God had given him. There is an American theologian whose name just escapes me for the moment, but he has said that vocation happens or calling happens when your deepest gladness meets the world's deepest hunger. Vocation or calling happens when your deepest gladness meets the world's deepest hunger. And the world is hungry. It's hungry right now. We've been going through 2 years of COVID. We've been wrestling and struggling with that. The world is hungry for healing. The world is hungry for connection. There are literally people who are hungry. They need to be fed. And nobody's going to do it unless we do. So I want to end by saying this. In our Christian tradition, we don't believe that it's just the special people that get called. We believe that it's everybody who is called. Everyone has a vocation. And each vocation might be different. Your deepest gladness might be different from mine. And when we recognize it, we might also feel inadequate. I'm not up to this task that I'm being called to do. Nevertheless, if you are a baptized believer, or even thinking about it, God's calling you because the world's hungry. So it's time to recognize that God is high and lofty and wonderful, and his train fills the temple, and we are unworthy, but he's going to come to us anyway and ask us to help. What is it that you're called to do? Amen.